All right, welcome into another episode of the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show. Joining me once again, starting to be a routine, is Coach Jeff Miller, and obviously Christian Spradlin. Always count on him to be here every Tuesday. Got another show lined up for you guys this week. Piketon Baseball is going to be in. Coach Jonathan Teeters and three of his players. But before we get to those guys, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming baseball tournament that's getting ready to start next week, I believe. I know softball's underway right now. SVC track meet started last night. Kind of just what's your thoughts on the beginning of this, I guess, for all the area schools?
Like you said, I think I think there's several softball games tonight. A couple of the Division III teams, I think, and D6s might have played their first round last night. One of the interesting things that we had mentioned before we came on the air was when you look at the baseball, how there's such a gap between games, that a lot of these teams we've talked about, you got to have some pitching depth, but with this gap that some teams are seeing, that they might be able to go with their ace for 2 or 3 rounds before they have to get into their bullpen.
Yeah, well, just building off that, we'll talk about a little bit of the area teams that we cover here. For example, May 21st, Warren and Chillicothe play each other on, like I said, May 21st, and they don't play again until May 27th. Now, they got to play 19-1 or 20-1 Jackson, but that's whoever wins that game is going to throw their ace twice in a row.
Well, which if you are going to have a game like that with Jackson, if you can at least put your ace out there on the mound, you give yourself a better chance than if you have to throw your 2 or 3, in a game like that.
Right, so. And also in Division III, you have Athens, Hillsboro, Circleville's waiting on that winner, and then Sheridan, Marietta will advance to play Miami Trace. All of those winners will end up at OU, which is kind of cool. It's a great place to play a game. You only have to play one game to get there, so that's pretty cool.
And if I'm not, you got that bracket out. If I'm not mistaken, after that OU game, do those teams advance back to Chillicothe to the Paints Field? I think
not yet. That'd be like. So once they get to OU, it's the district quarterfinals.
Gotcha.
And then the district semifinals. No, actually, district's quarterfinals is at the higher seed. Semifinals is at OU. Finals is at OU. And it doesn't tell me here any further than that.
I think I did hear that they
come back to
Chillicothe. Yeah.
So that's D3, D4. We have a lot of teams that we represent in there. From the SVC, you notice the 1 seed. They await the winner of Vinton County, Greenfield, McLean, Waverly, New Lex, the 4-5 seed. Got Washington Courthouse, Logan Elm. And then whoever wins that will play Fairfield Union. Now, those games are a little bit closer in terms of time. Vinton County, Greenfield's 5-19, and then they have to turn around 3 days later and play the 1 seed. Same with Washington Courthouse, Logan Elm. And then in the bottom of that bracket, another SVC team, Westfall, Gallia Academy. So all that's starting next week. That's D4. And as you'll notice, especially with the SVC, these things are going to be spread out all the way from 4 to 7 in terms of where they are. Division 5, Piketon, we mentioned earlier, they will travel to Meigs. The winner of that will go on to play Lynchburg Clay. That is at the Paint Stadium.
Okay.
So that's the district semifinals there. Portsmouth plays Dawson Bryant. Northwest, River Valley. Again, the winner of those games will advance to VA Stadium. Oak Hill, Fairland advance to play Valley. Wheelersburg, Alexander. Wellston, Nelsonville, York. Minford plays Rock Hill. The winner of that will get Zane Trace. It's a little bit different because that game's at Logan High School, where the other ones are at Chillicothe, VA. And then in the bottom of that bracket, you have South Point and Portsmouth West to advance to play Ironton. That's Division 5. D6, some of the teams from the SVC that are in that. Adena travels to Belpre. Huntington hosts Chesapeake. And Southeastern North Adams play. So, again, D6, that, like I said, the SVC's spread out. And then finally in D7, South Webster, the 1 seed. Obviously, we talked a little bit about them last week, winning the conference for the first time since 81, I think. 1981.
30-plus years,
yeah.
I think.
Fairfield plays Ironton St. Joe. Let's see, going down through here, just some teams that we've talked to. Tonight we'll have Paint Valley head coach Shane Combs on. They'll travel to play Trimble on May 22nd. So, again, a lot of teams spread out over all of the divisions, which I think is a good thing. It gives a lot of teams a chance to advance. Maybe, I guess, you don't want to say that the regular season's a preseason, but once they break out into these different divisions, obviously, their record might not be what they want it to be or it should be, but when then they get with teams at their size, they have a chance.
We've talked about that. We talked about that with Paint Valley last week. That it's a team who middle of the pack, fourth, fifth place finish in our league, but then they turn around and get to play in a tournament where they're playing schools their size, and that they have that opportunity to win 2, 3, 4 games or in a
make
tournament.
a tournament run. So
I know the one thing that kind of stood out when you said that was that there was a couple of those matchups. You said, man, there's some serious travel going on. When you look at, I think you said Adena at Belpre, Paint Valley at Trimble.
Right. That's the bad part about it. Once you break it down and add more divisions, you're going to add travel to that. It's just the way it works, and I guess you got to take the good with the bad. And I think if you talk to any coach, they'd be willing to travel to give themselves a chance to win the tournament.
Very true.
I remember, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 years ago when we first went to this type of deal. It wasn't when they broke the divisions up. It was when I was still coaching basketball, but I remember we got realigned in terms of the district, and we had to drive past the Convo to play at Marietta. And I was telling the guys on the bus, I was like, guys, the goal is to play there. It's not to pass it on the way to your first tournament game. Needless to say, we didn't stop there that year, but it's it is what it is, and you got to take the good with the bad. And like I said, I think most coaches would trade that travel for a chance to give yourself to advance. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Piketon head baseball coach Jonathan Teeters in here with us. welcome back to the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show. Joining us now is Piketon baseball coach Jonathan Teeters. Red Streaks come in as a number 13 seed in Division 5. Coach, thanks for taking some time to come in tonight and talk to us a little bit about what you guys are doing this week in terms of getting ready to play in your tournament game next week.
Well, I mean, we had a couple. I was telling you guys before we went on air, I think we played 5 last week, had 4 scheduled this week, but of course the rain stepped in and washed us out twice. We've been able to go inside in our facility last couple of days and get some work in. And, you know, I think there's a little bit of a blessing behind that. I think our guys are a little tired. It's nice for them to get a little bit of a break.
Right.
Kind of re-energize a little bit before our tournament run. Obviously, we're blessed and fortunate to have the facility we have. Not very many schools are able to go inside and hit like that. But, yeah, it's been nice for them to get a break. And I think last week was a long week for them.
What do you know about Megs in terms of, you know, I mean, I know they have a similar record. I mean, like, they have a dominant pitcher. Are they deep with their rotation? Or they hit the ball well? Like,
I've talked to a few coaches.
Yeah.
I think they're a competitive team. As you can see, I think they're the 12 seed. We're the 13.
right.
So I feel like it'll be a competitive game. Looking forward to the challenge. Obviously, I talked to Coach Noble a little bit about Megs. Him and I are good buddies. Don't want to give away too much.
Right.
Well, no.
We're excited. We're excited for the challenge.
Well, you know, the one thing about baseball is it's like when you get to the tournament, the records aren't really indicative of possibly what you're going to run into. You know, if a team's got, like we've talked about, if a team's got just a dominant ace who may be on the year, might be, you know, 7-8-0 or something, their record's 13-10.
Yeah.
And you look at it, well, you're going to face that number one. So
Right.
it can be a challenge at times.
Yeah, come tourney time, I mean, I think you don't throw the records out the door, but you do to a degree. I mean,
Right.
it's whoever's playing the best baseball. And
It's almost like you want to look and say, okay, what's their record when he's pitching?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you think that, and we always talk about it, and I'm pretty sure that, you know, the SVC's, you know, historically known as a really good baseball conference. Kind of just, how do you feel like that the 14 games that you play in the league against some bigger schools obviously prepares you for the tournament?
Well, I mentioned before in a call-in show with you guys about how tough I thought our league was this year. It's the arms that, you know, our record's 3-11 in the league. You can take that for what it's worth, but the arms that we see every single night, I mean, you're facing guys 80 plus with command, off-speed pitches, and they're not just pitchers. They know how to throw. I mean, they're not throwers; they're pitchers.
Right.
They know how to spot balls. They know how to throw pitchers, pitches, and hitters counts.
Well, I don't know how I ended up down there on it. It was a Monday. You guys played Unyota, and it was nice out. I think that's why I ended up down there. But, you know, that game, you guys, you I don't know how you want to say it, drew the luck of the draw facing KB Perkins, and they jump out 4-0.
Yeah.
But it was 4-0.
Yeah.
Till like the 6th inning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is, like, I just feel like this conference and the type of pitching that you face sets you up for the tournament to hopefully have some success.
Yeah, they got up on us early. Actually ended up starting sophomore game. Braden Oliver has got really good stuff. And you're right. I mean, it was a tight game for the majority of the game. But, you know, when you're playing these teams like Unioto and you have a bad inning or you give them 4 outs in an inning instead of 3 that are required, things snowball, and it's just tough. You know, I told the guys some of those games that we haven't come out where we wanted to, we've just been too much of fighting uphill.
Right. It's almost like you're using just everything you got just to catch back up.
Yes.
You know, or you're going through your arms to just stay in the game, and sometimes that's tough to do.
Yeah.
You know, I know we're going to talk to 3 of you guys you have coming in here. Give us just kind of a little bit of a preview of those 3 guys and what they've meant to your team this season and your program overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's obviously a lot of different guys I could have picked from, but, you know, these guys earned all league honors. I feel like they've been the most important pieces of our team this year. They've all been part of the program for 4 years. They're great kids on and off the baseball field. You know, and they're a good representation of our program.
You mentioned all 4 years, and baseball coaches, any spring sport coaches have to deal with this more than anyone else. It's the end of the year. It's the end of the school year. It's the end of their high school careers. How do you guys how do you guys manage that really? I mean, because I know different schools, kids get out, seniors get out at different times. You know, you're still playing baseball, you know, hopefully for a long time.
Yeah.
Just talk about how you manage that.
Well, to me, that's kind of like the game within the game, and we talk about that on the baseball field, but then there's also that off the baseball field. I mean, like you said, these guys are graduating. Some of them already have jobs lined up. Some of them are going off to college, whatever it might be. So as a coach, you know, you've got to try to, you know, not push them too hard, not press them too much, because at the end of the day, this is the last sport they're going to play, and you want them to go out with a positive experience, while at the same time, you know, remaining competitive and trying to put forth their best effort.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be hard to do.
It's tough. It is.
Especially, you know, there's just so many, I feel like, obstacles in spring sports.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
You're talking about the weather.
Yep.
I mean, you're starting basically when it's still winter, unless you're piked and you have an indoor you can get inside.
Right.
You know, then it starts getting nice out.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of distractions. You know, it's nice out. We're graduating. We don't even have to go to school anymore, but we're still playing baseball. It's just there's a lot of things going on that I don't think people take into consideration when you're talking about spring sports and baseball in general. So. So you guys scheduled to play tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday? Who do you guys have the rest of the week?
We've got at Chillicothe tomorrow and at Benton County on Thursday. Then next Tuesday we'll be heading to Meigs. So.
Tuesday, that's what I was looking up, Meigs.
Yeah. Got to take care of Meigs first.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, it's a must. Do you feel like, though, sometimes when you go on the road, it's maybe sometimes easier to play because – you have time to get focused. You know what I mean? That bus ride, you know, if you do it right, they're focused. Whereas if it's at home, you know, there's more time to, you know, screw around a little bit and maybe lose a little bit of focus. You feel more comfortable, which obviously you want to do. But I just think that sometimes you go on the road and you get off the bus and you're ready to go a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been on too many hour-and-a-half bus trips this year, but you know, we've already got a plan for how we want to go at it, and
stopping halfway, let them get out and stretch their legs.
If Buddy wants to, I probably will. We got to make sure he's able to run. But,
just let Buddy carry a football on the bus, and he'll get off ready to play baseball. I guarantee it.
Buddy has been something else this year. I'm very happy for him the season he's had, but. Yeah, he's been a weapon for sure.
Yeah, and like you mentioned already, and I've gotten to know him, just a great kid first of all. So
better person than football player, baseball player, and that's saying a lot.
It's kind of funny how that works out, isn't it? Like,
I think you said that last week. There's good all around kids end up being some of your best players.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
Well, Coach, obviously we want to get to those three guys you brought with us. We appreciate you stopping in, and hopefully maybe we can get you on. Is it next Tuesday you play?
Yeah. Next Tuesday.
Maybe we get a phone call on the bus
on the way home.
Kill some of that time.
Yeah. Sign me up right now.
All right. Okay, you got it.
Yep.
Christian, mark it down. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with three Piketon baseball players when we return. All right, welcome back to the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show. We're joined now with Zach Hanna, Mason Roberts, and Buddy Wilson of the Piketon baseball team. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
So we just talked a little bit about Coach, about the upcoming tournament game. Just talk to us about how your guys' season has gone and what you're looking forward to next week in that tournament game and the rest of this week leading into it. Just kind of talk about your approach.
I think we just got to come prepared, take what we've been doing in practice these last couple of days and, come prepared, take what we're doing in practice and insert it into our game. We should be chilling.
I feel like we battled a lot of adversity this year. We faced a lot of people's aces. I feel like every game we've played, we've literally faced their one or two. And I feel like we've gotten better throughout the years. I feel like during this playoff game we're going to come out, I think it's going to help us really good.
I believe our team's better than we are. We just got to do it. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Just got to break down and do it.
And we talked to Coach a little bit. Sometimes your record doesn't really talk about how good you are. I know the saying is you are what your record says you are, but a lot of times that's not the case. And once the tournament comes, I'm sure Coach has talked about this, and you guys have all played for great coaches in high school and different sports and things like that. Once the postseason happens, what's the first thing your coach says is?
It's records.
Throw the records out the window, right? Everyone's 0-0. So, I think I like your tournament draw. Obviously, it's against a team with a similar win-loss record as your own, but I honestly feel like the conference that you guys play in, I think it prepares you a little bit for a tournament run.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
You guys have. You said you've probably faced everybody's 1 or 2 all year, and we talked. In this league, almost every team in this league's got a good solid 1 and 2.
A good solid 1 and 2. Yes,
so.
Absolutely.
You guys got anything else to add to that? Like, just what do you think? Your mindset. Like, you got 2 games this week.
Yeah, 2 games this week.
And you mentioned some things that you had to work on. What are some things that you feel like that you guys have to shore up heading into the postseason?
We have to limit errors. That's what I think it is. Well, I mean, it's pretty easily to say until you got to go out there and play, but I feel like we got to be more sharper, which we will. We're going to have a good week of practice. I feel like, as I said, we've gotten better throughout the years. So, I mean, beginning year we had guys pouting. That's not happening anymore. They're like, oh, well, we'll get the next one. And they get the next one, and I'm proud of my guys for doing that. They've really stepped up, and I feel like Megs they got it coming.
Well, that's the right mindset and attitude to have, obviously. I'm going to ask each of you individually to just kind of talk about what your role has been on this team and how you've kind of just seen your game evolve over your high school career.
My role, of course, catch birds. Don't let them fly. but high school year, just coming in now, I'm batting way better than I was. I mean, it's a better role for a team. I lay down bunts when I need. I got speed. I just got to do what I keep doing.
Yep.
He calls it, I do it.
Yep.
That's what we got to do. Whole team's got to.
Execute.
What about each of you guys? Your role on the team, and how's it kind of like evolved as your high school career has unfolded?
I'd say sophomore and junior year, I was mostly just pitching and getting that ball across the plate, pitching. And this year, I've just really tried to be like. To add on to that, I just try to be like a good teammate to everyone. If someone's down, pick them up. Also hitting wise, everyone's got to be hot on the bats, and we got to hit a bunch, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my part of it, I feel like my first couple years, I felt like I wasn't really happy about myself. I was probably like 200 pounds. I didn't like where I was, so I kind of just lost a little bit of weight, and that kind of helped me on the baseball field. I really think it did. Helped me get more athletic, helped me get more quicker. I think it really helped me out to become a better ball player than I am. I used to just play the first base. Now I can play outfield, and I think outfield's really fun. Like Buddy said, I like catching birds, not letting them fly. And I mean, I went from batting 3-hole my whole life to batting 1 this year. It was an interesting change, but I mean, I really like it. It challenged me. I like my approach is I got to get on bases first, and let's get something going. If I get on base, we get something going, and that's what I try to do. I try to get on base every time. Yeah, I try to set the tone to my greatest ability.
That's good. What's it like being a senior not just on a baseball team, just in general, being a senior. And I talked to Coach just a minute about this. The spring, you guys see what's. I mean, it's almost over. Just talk about how it is playing your senior year. And I know you guys have all played other sports as well. Like, what's it like being a senior? But then more importantly, what's it like being a senior in the spring when you're graduating in a couple weeks? Talk about that.
Well, I mean, when your start of your senior year, I feel like that's the funnest time. I mean, especially if you play football, that game's really fun. And then after that, I feel like after football season, it just like flies by. Senior year flies by, and it's just. And I'm looking back, I'm like, dang. I remember coming out of that huddle, and now I'm like sitting in right here, and I'm like, dang, I'm about to graduate in a week. It's kind of crazy to think about.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Is graduation next week for you guys?
Yeah.
I know when I coach basketball, and I know you do this too, Coach. You talk to your basketball team in February and into March, and you say, "Listen, guys, once this basketball season ends, school's over, right? Because it seems like the spring season just flies, and then you're out, you graduate, and it's just. I try to tell all the seniors to just take all of that in every moment. Hopefully, you guys have been able to do that your senior year, and can extend it. Continue playing for Piketon while you don't have to go to school at Piketon. You know what I mean? That's a huge goal.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. We obviously had the softball girls on here last week. I think they set records for the number of views we had in terms of a lot of people tuning into that because of their, I don't know what you want to call it, enthusiasm, creativity, their dugout. All the different things they have going on. Does Piketon baseball have anything close to a pet goldfish, a train horn?
We don't, but I mean, I think Mason about a week ago brought in.
We brought in like
what's that hat?
A hat.
Sombrero?
Sombrero, yeah.
Sombrero. So whenever someone comes in and scores a run, we
put the
take
sombrero
the
on
helmet
top
off,
of them,
put the sombrero on their head.
and we all jump up with our hands.
Yeah.
You brought it in probably Cinco de Mayo, probably on May 5th. Right? You started that.
Yeah.
Wade Feld always had a lizard he'd have in his back pocket, and he'd go around and hit people with it every time he make plays.
We need to get that sombrero out Tuesday. At Meg's.
Yeah, make sure the sombrero is busted out.
Oh, yeah.
So, just along those lines, who would you say on the team kind of keeps the dugout light, keeps the bus rides fun? Who on the team is that guy?
Bodie
Do you want me to say it? Oh,
Bodie
Armstrong. I know Bodie's watching right now. He's probably smiling.
Jagan, too.
Jagan, too. Jagan Nisley's a fun.
What do they do? What's some of their tricks?
Jagan just he can make any noise you want. I mean, a picture's on him out. He lets out an elephant noise, and it sounds like an elephant. You really think there's an elephant out there?
It's crazy.
He can do a rooster. I mean, it's real good. It's pretty good stuff.
Let me ask you guys: when you guys have road games, are you guys on the same bus with the softball team?
No.
Gosh, I was going to say that would be
a
bus ride. Would be,
I don't know if we could handle
it.
Like, I seriously think Bodie would go back and forth. It wouldn't. Bodie would go back and forth with him. I don't think Bodie would give up.
You guys think that fish would survive if the baseball team was on the bus with the softball?
Guys would probably eat it.
I think Bodie would eat it.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right. Well, you guys have anything else to add? Anything you want to talk about? Obviously, we appreciate you taking, your day off. No game tonight. Hopefully, you get a couple games in, get some momentum going in to next Tuesday. Coach is already committing to calling us with a win on the bus on the way home from Meg. So
maybe we'll get Bodie on to make some.
Yeah,
we go.
There
we go. You know what I mean?
Get him ready. Warn him.
Yeah. We'll make sure to let him know.
All right. But anyway, appreciate you guys coming on here. Congratulations on outstanding high school careers. And it's been fun to kind of just watch you guys grow up and be successful, and wish you guys nothing but the best once you graduate. And hopefully that's after a long tournament run. So
Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this short break. welcome back to the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show. We are going to now be joined by Jackson baseball coach. I forgot his name.
Josh McGraw.
Yep, Josh McGraw. I was going to say a different first name. Coach, you out there?
Yeah, I am. I'm right here.
All right, Coach, welcome. Thanks for calling in. I know it was a busy night. You guys
Yep, appreciate it.
home or away against Miami Trace tonight?
We were at home tonight. We got it in before the rain hit.
Did you get the field all put back together before it poured on you?
We did not. They didn't even get on. We just started to drag. We were lucky to get the tarps on. But we finished the last pitch, and it was sunny. And by the time coaches finished talking to their teams, it was no longer sunny.
Isn't that crazy how today's weather has like been indicative of the spring? Like it rained, it was nice, and then it rained again.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
inconsistent.
crazy.
Yeah.
We probably have a lot more games if we could all play at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon too. But that's not happening.
I'm sure the kids would like that.
You're getting that 4 or 5 o'clock rain this year.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You mean you didn't email Phil and ask if you guys would be all right to play all your baseball games at 1?
I already know the answer to that one, so I'm not going to email that one.
Some questions just better left unsaid, I guess. All right,
Yeah,
Coach.
exactly.
So you guys win tonight. That puts you guys at 21-1 on the year. Is that right?
I think 20-1.
20-1.
I think it's 20-1. Yeah,
Still-
we got our 20th win.
That's a lot, and that's great. Obviously, you guys wrapped up another FAC title. Talk a little bit about your team, how your team, I know that you had a lot of underclassmen last year, and you guys, if I'm not mistaken, are still pretty junior heavy, I think. Just talk about, the success of the program the last couple years and winning 2 straight FAC titles, which is a tough thing to do because it's such a good baseball conference.
Yeah, it is a very, very good conference, looking good teams, good coaching. We're a mix of junior and seniors. I'd say our top, 12, 13 players, 6 are juniors, probably, 6 are seniors. We start, 5 seniors right now. So it's kind of a mix both ways. But yeah, it's a different group. They've been, seems like they've been playing for 4 or 5 years. I've actually coached a lot of these young men in the summer since they were 7 and 8. So they know what to expect. Great, just kind of a great young men, great families. Probably the easiest year I've had coaching, and because they've been around so long, you're not getting those 1 and 2 year players. A lot of these kids been starting for 2, 3, and 4 years, or at least been on the varsity team for 3 and 4 years. But yeah, the FAC is a grind, especially when you get rainouts and different things like that. And can you have your pitching lined up? And we were fortunate this year.
Hey, Coach.
We were
One of the things I have, and it's, I'm fairly unfamiliar with it, but I think, in the FAC, you guys do kind of a home away back-to-back. Is that correct in your league schedule?
We do a Monday, Tuesday league game back-to-back. Kind of a baseball style design, so you can't throw your ace against the next best team both times. And we see that, we've seen that a lot where, a team can win the league by just having, one guy and knocking off one team twice with the same guy or whatever. So they went to that last year and it works out. I like it. You really need to have three or four pitchers, because if you don't have your 1 and 2 that are going to go 7 innings, you better have some quality relief pitching in as well. A lot of leagues do. I like it for baseball, whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday. I think you get a true champion. You have to be more of a program rather than just have a guy. And so I like it. We've won it twice with that. So
yeah. I was gonna say when you're winning it seems like a great idea, right?
Do you think that
if I got hurt, I'd hate it.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a testament to your pitching staff, being able to go back to back, and in the style of format that you guys have in the FAC?
Yeah. I do year in, year out. I seem to have good pitching and at least deep as well. We have we have 12 to 13 guys that are dressing varsity only, not dressing JV, and 8 of them probably pitch, and pitch pretty well. I've got some 4, 5, and 6s that would probably be 2s, 3s, or even a 1 on some teams, and that has a lot to do with the quality of the younger baseball in this community. Right. A lot of kids grow up. There's a lot of good dads, a lot of good younger coaches, coaching these kids in travel or little league or whatever, junior high, and turn them into pitchers. So I'm not trying to make them a pitcher in high school. They already have some fundamentals, and we're trying to make them better. And it has worked because, we're deep on the mound. I could have thrown my number one again tonight, but we didn't. He threw Friday. I guess you could have brought him back trying to get that win, but our number two is, we call him 1B. Gavin Jones our one, Tucker Williams our two. He got his shot on the mound. He threw a 3-hitter tonight. That's pretty much how we roll. I actually usually give my starters 6-7 days in between starts, and we roll with the next guy. We have 5 or 6 starters and the next guy up type of thing.
Coach, talk about that going into the tournament with so many days off. Well, it's got to be a luxury to know that you can come back with your one if you want to. You don't have to. And I was looking at the D3 tournament. It's, obviously I feel like a lot of it could be, there's some teams in there that are in the FAC anyway. It's almost like a small FAC tournament, if you will. It used to be.
It really is.
Yeah, it used to be that way with a long time ago in basketball with the SVC. It was like they were all D3 and they all played each other again in the tournament. So just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the long break's a little different. You're going to get guys rested, but all coaches want to find games in that break.
Right.
Ours is a little longer because we got to buy the first round.
Yeah, I was looking at that. It looks you don't open up tournament play until the 27th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking 2 weeks really. So what's that 2 weeks going to look like for you guys? I mean, you're obviously probably trying to pick up a few games.
Yeah, and that's tough. Until yesterday, it looked good. I picked up 4 games. I had 3 of them canceled yesterday. So,
oh man,
right now we're struggling to find games. We're actually it got canceled Friday, Saturday, and Monday this week, and Monday next week. So we're still looking. I send emails everywhere and texts everywhere, just trying to find games.
Coach, if I'm not, weren't you guys going to play Unioto again? Was that one of them that got canceled?
Well, no, mixed up. I think they contacted RAD, but I don't think I got the message.
I got you.
So we scheduled another game with somebody else, and then and by then Unioto had already picked up a game.
I see.
I love playing Unioto because they'll play anybody and they're always ready to go. It was a miscommunication type thing. And
I know I was kind
they had already picked up a game, so I get that.
I was excited. I think that was going to be at Unioto. That was going to be
it
one.
was.
Yeah, I was going to be able to get to that one.
So, but yeah, maybe they'll need another game. No, but their D4 is a little different.
They start Tuesday, I believe.
We're kind of struggling. Yeah, we're kind of struggling trying to find more ball games, get some games in, and not have a break. We were able to pick up one next Thursday, but ideally, we'd like that. We go to Webster tomorrow, then Greenup on Thursday. Ideally, we'd like to have a game on Friday, then a game on Monday, but we'll kind of see where we're at and take what we can get type thing.
Right, especially with the way the tournament schedule works out, where a lot of the D4 teams are starting next week. It's hard for you to pick up any D3 teams because you could play them, anytime now. So you don't want to do that.
Got canceled.
Right.
We had games at Circleville and Warren, but they're in our side of the bracket.
Right.
So, and I understand that canceling and things like that, but it's just you have to, but it just makes it tough. So,
Coach, we had Piketon baseball coach Coach Teeters in, and we were talking to him a little bit about you guys don't play till May 27th. Half your team is going to be graduated. How do you handle the tournament, the end of the season? Baseball coaches, softball coaches as well. They have to juggle a lot of different things, not just the weather, but they have to juggle, these guys and girls, being done with high school, but still participating in a high school sport. How do you guys juggle that?
It can be tough. I have a very good senior class, very disciplined and, very, very mentally tough. But first of all is, what time the guys waking up, different, what time are they going to bed type of thing. That can be tough. So we try to have practice and different things, and try to keep things organized. And we'll talk to our seniors and juniors. But I have a special group. We have 6 seniors. I have 3 valedictorians, and of our senior class, 3.9 GPA. So these aren't roughneck, dumb young men. They're very good men, and they understand what they're playing for. And you try to stress that. We have a chance to do something very good this year. We've already started well, 20-1. Won 20 games tonight. We won our 20th. That was the 5th year in a row. So they're very proud of that. Won the gold ball again tonight with 10-0 in the FAC. That was the 2nd year in a row. So they got things to play for, and that's kind of what we'll focus on, things like that, and just try to keep the same routine. Now, luckily, these kids have been around. They understand the routine. They understand Jackson baseball because they've been around the game forever. I was joking with a coach that we started. We generally play about 11 guys, and eight of them, actually 9 of them, have played for me since they were 8 years old. So on the same travel teams and in the summer, so they kind of know what to expect and how to run practice and how they should act, and the young guys feed off that. So if the seniors do a great job there, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, Coach, and you mentioned it a couple different times about the youth programs and different dads you can trust to pour into your kids to eventually when they get to you don't have to teach them how to pitch or teach them how to play the game, and of course you being involved in it as well. Can you just kind of speak on basically the Jackson community and you talk, everyone knows about Jackson football. Obviously, Coach Morrow is doing a great job with Jackson basketball. Your baseball program is you just talked about, it's won 20 games 5 years in a row. Like, just talk about the community support that you guys get on all sports.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, really. We don't want for anything. Anything we need, we get. And not just that, as far as fundraising, different things, night in, night out, there's a couple hundred people at the games watching. They don't have children playing. They're just diehard Jackson people wanting to watch good baseball. But yeah, it is special. As far as the younger levels of baseball and the travel teams and we call it Eddie Jones. That's our rec league. Just a lot of dads and parents involved that do a great job, and you kind of raising these kids up to give them fundamentals so they're ready. And it's very much the same with Jackson football and the Pee Wee program, and baseball kind of feeds off that and does the same thing. We have pretty much a travel team at every age that's out playing 30, 40 games a summer, and it helps. It really does, because and not only just playing, they actually like the game. They're growing up liking and loving baseball. So, the hard part's kind of over with when they get to the 9th grade. I mean, high school baseball is hard, especially at Jackson. It's tough, but these kids know what to expect. And it's been a blessing. I think Coach Hall sees it every year with the talent coming in, and Coach Morrow, since they started their travel basketball, has benefited from that as well. It just makes it easier to coach. It's a lot easier to make a kid better than it is to teach him the fundamentals. To try to make him good to start with. But we've been blessed there. We're blessed as far as community and how we raise money and the stuff we're able to put on the kids' backs and game balls and the quality of things we can provide for them. That's a big deal. But also, they like that we put a good product on the field, and we're playing very great competition, things like that. It kind of goes hand in hand.
Coach, are a lot of your players, are they multi-sport kids?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I have a lot of football players. We have a very big team.
Well, and it's you're talking about Coach Hall, Coach Morrow, and those guys. It's like if they start winning in the fall, and it just kind of carries over through the entire year. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yep.
You are exactly right there. When you grow up winning in another sport, winning is contagious.
Yes.
Very much so. And I've always said before, a football coach can hurt a baseball program if he wants to. By not letting the kids play in different, or tell them to do something else. And Coach Hall's the opposite. He actually helps our program, with the football weightlifting. One of the reasons they lift it they have 2 of them. And one of the reasons they lift at 6:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon is so baseball players can go in the morning. That's actually why that started years ago. Yeah. And also I don't tell my kids that, hey, you can't be in there. I tell them to get in there. Your job's to work on football. You're going to get 8 hours rest at school. You're not going to be up running around. You'll be fine for the game. I have a very good relationship with him and how the kids work, and he understands who's pitching and, hey, they're not going to do bench press on this, that. Right. He gets that. We work, and it helps that our classrooms are literally like 50 feet from each other. He always, hey, who's pitching tomorrow? And it's awesome. I've seen other baseball programs struggle because they may not have that quality relationship with the football coach. And football's key here. You have to understand your pecking order, and I get that. And he makes us better by working around things and just our relationship working together. It's nothing but positive. And just like he's always says, there's a lot of his quarterbacks. They're at shortstop or on the mound in big games in baseball before they're on the football field. So they're under the spotlight and they're learning to handle pressure and things like that. Playing in the tournament on the mound, maybe as a freshman or sophomore. And then the next year you'll see them under the Friday night lights, and they're kind of experienced when it comes to pressure, and it helps them. And what we expect. We don't, what you let your players do. Can they get away with certain things? You're not going to get away with the football. You're not going to get away with in baseball. Here's how we act. Here's how we do things. And all coaches, if they're on the same page, it makes things pretty easy.
Yeah, it's smooth transition. I agree.
Exactly.
That's one of the things that, this will be my 6th year coaching football. And one of the, obviously we want all of our kids to participate in all of the sports because at schools like our sizes, they have to if you want to have successful programs. But one of the things that, we're trying to do right now is incorporating that weightlifting. We finally got it approved to have it during the school day. So the last 2 periods of the day.
That's awesome.
Our kids will be able to lift, and we won't lose so many kids to another sport to where they have to always be starting over. And I just think
exactly
that, you can offer it in the morning. I don't know if we're there yet. We did that a couple of years ago, and it was a decent turnout. But I think that if we can kind of build off of the model that you guys have and incorporate that into our school day, I just think it'll improve our athletics in all aspects in all sports. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask you about the Jackson community and the way you guys all feed off of each other from one sport to the next. I just think that your guys' blueprint is the right one, and it speaks for itself. You guys win and you do it the right way, and you're supported throughout your community, and I just think it's really neat to see.
It is. It's very neat. I'm not from Jackson, so it's very new to me. I'm used to it now, but it is pretty special. And a lot of people think it's just because Jackson's a big school. What they don't realize is we have roughly about the same amount of football players as other schools and athletes, because a large percent of our schools, like liberal arts, band and choir and different things.
Your band is huge.
Band is huge.
Huge. But a lot of those kids don't play sports. Some of them do, but that's their love. So we're a very artsy school. We have a big time art program and choirs and different bands and things like that. That's a lot of kids transfer to Jackson for that, which makes us a bigger school. But we still only have 60, 70 football players, 28, baseball players. That's a large number for a lot of schools. But I think if you look around, there's not a single player in our starting lineup in baseball and on our varsity bench that doesn't lift weights. Yeah. Every one of them. I think all but 3 are football players, and they're built. And one's a wrestler, and one doesn't play football, but he's 5'11", 210. He's in the weight room all the time.
And he's not doing a very good job. Why? Is
yeah,
we're going to have to get on
him.
He
let one slip away.
He's been trying to get. If Noah Ernst, he's our catcher. He's a D1 commit. He's built like a brick house. Coach Hall's been trying to get him to play football. He just loves baseball. Baseball's his love. He golfs. He likes to golf during. Him and my son actually. Are the one of the 2 that only don't play football. They're both golfers, and and that's another. We have 7 baseball players that golf throughout the program, and probably, I'd say out of 28, I would say 18 kids play football.
So how many kids do you think in your entire program are baseball only? Let's say out of the 28, how many are baseball only?
I'm not sure I have one.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah,
I don't have one on the varsity team.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now.
Some of the freshmen, I'm not sure what they played. Almost all of them, then down there play football. There might be 1 or 2 down there, but I'm not positive. But on the varsity team, athletes is what you want.
Absolutely.
Speed, agility, strength.
Yep.
And
pitching.
Yes.
All right, Coach. Well, hey, we appreciate you taking the time. It was really good to talk to you, and I learned a few things, and just hear about your program and the success you guys have had, and hopefully we'll continue to have and make a long tournament run. So we appreciate you
I
calling
hope
in.
so. I appreciate you calling, sir. You guys do an awesome job. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks, man.
See you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back, we'll have another coach on the line. Welcome back to the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show. We're now joined by Paint Valley baseball coach Shane Combs. Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing?
Doing all right. Got a familiar face with me here tonight, Coach Jeff Miller, and glad to be able to talk to you once again tonight. Talk to us about what you guys have going on this week, Coach, and then heading into the tournament.
Yeah, it's been kind of a tough year to battle, the tough grind of the SVC as well as just the unbelievable weather pattern that we've had. Certainly something I've never really experienced throughout my career. Just trying to do a lot of creative scheduling, trying to be as flexible as possible, be creative with practice. Kids after a while you can only hit inside and take indoor batting practice and indoor ground balls for so many days, and but trying to be aggressive with scheduling, get as many games on there, and then hope Mother Nature will let up here at some point to try to get something. As of now, we hope to maybe reschedule River Valley tomorrow night, maybe get a chance. We still got to finish a game on Saturday with Huntington where we're down 1-0 going into the bottom of the fourth inning, and then probably look to go on the road Monday night just to keep the kids playing some live action before we get in the tournament play in the middle of next week.
What day do you play your tournament game next week, Coach?
Thursday night. With next week we go to Trimble, so hoping to get a look at Trimble a couple times between now and then. They play in a really good small school conference over there in the TVC Hocking with some really good baseball programs, Eastern Megs and Racing Southern, Waterford, some of those schools. So yeah, Trimble will be our matchup next Thursday.
Hopefully Trimble plays closer to Bainbridge than they do Trimble when you go scout them.
Well, that's just it. The weather's not really messing our schedule up there. They were supposed to play a Dean up at Ross County Park tonight, and that was going to be the perfect scenario. So not only are we not getting to play, we're not even getting to go take the easy scout trip.
I think there's a little grass runway right outside of Bainbridge where they fly planes. Maybe you guys can jump on a plane and take it down to Trimble.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bainbridge to Gloucester, I'm guessing that's a few hours. Yeah.
That what's going to be though, Coach, is you're going to have to, and I know that this won't disappoint you. You may have to stop and eat on the way.
Well, that's probably in the plans, and yeah, that's what's crazy about it. I mean, we've all done this long enough to where the game itself and the opponent's enough of a challenge, but at the same time, you worry about just the logistics of it. What time do you leave? The long trip, getting the guys down there, getting them something to eat, all those different things. You got to get all that in line before you get to the most important thing, which is getting there and trying to play well.
Yeah, maybe some of that family that lives down there in the Albany area, that could be you guys can stop and have a meal there, some of your family or something like that.
Yeah, no doubt. We certainly have to stop it and cut the trip in half. I know that.
Yeah.
Tell Lee to get ready.
Yeah.
No, Coach. What are some things that you heading into the tournament that you kind of want? Everyone has some things they want to clean up. We've already talked about the inconsistency of the weather, and you can't get outside to practice consistently. You can't really play games consistently. What are some things that you guys are trying to just you want to control the things you can control? What are the things you guys are trying to clean up heading into the tournament, maybe?
Well, Hoopsy, it's funny you asked it that way because I honestly think for us the number one thing is how are we going to handle adversity? It's one of those things where, outside of Zane Trace, who's just really whooped us good a couple of times, we've been a really, really competitive baseball team. We've gone toe-to-toe into the late innings with Uniota a couple of times. We split with Westfall. Like I said, Huntington's got an elite arm on the mound, and we're in with them. It's and play a perfect game. We're going to strike out. We're going to make an error. Probably going to walk a batter. We're going to face some adversity, and that seems to be the biggest thing that we're having trouble with. Is we'll play some really high-level baseball for 3, 4, 5 innings, but when one bad thing happens, it seems to become a second and third thing. And as you guys know, in the SVC, that's a recipe for disaster. I think we got to handle adversity just a little bit better than we have throughout the year.
Yeah, and that's the toughest thing to do a lot of times, to relay to young men, and then especially if you've got some youth on your team. That's already hard enough as it is to compete at a high level. But then when things start going bad, how you respond to that is crucial. And hopefully for you guys, you can get a couple games in and maybe if not play cleaner, then talk about how you could have done things differently, and just discuss the next time we do this when it's the tournament, if we don't do this the right way, we're done. And I just sometimes it's hard to get that point across to the guys.
Yeah, it really is. At the varsity level, I think the hardest thing for kids to handle is the failure you're automatically going to come across sometimes. I think, I know you guys were two really, really good baseball players growing up, so you'll understand what I'm saying here. As you grow up and you kind of have your way in the little league and at some of the younger levels, even your best players, as you get to the high school level, are going to start to get out a lot more. And a lot of your role players, their batting average is going to read something pretty low for the first time in their life. And they're kind of just adjusting to some of that adversity and the difficulties of the SVC grind. So you're exactly right. It's something that we try to talk about. It's something that we try to, own, not run from it. But I really do think that's going to be a pretty important key for us right at the top of the scouting report, regardless of who we play next week when we get into the tournament.
One thing, Coach, take Uniota, for example, in the SVC. I think if you look at their non-league schedule, they obviously, during the season, they're playing a lot of, D5s, D6s within the league. In their non-league, they try to, play some of those D3, D4s. You're probably almost the exact opposite of that, where, in the league, you're playing schools that are larger than you. So in your non-league, do you try to play, some teams that are more like same division as you, or how do you approach that?
Jeff, it's probably a mixture of both. It's one of those things where we've still played probably, throughout the year in these new divisions. I guess you'd call them more Division 4s and 5s. the old Division II, Division III. We certainly mix in some of the small divisions. As I've gone on through my career, it's probably been harder and harder to schedule with some of the success we had from that 14 to 21 stretch. It kind of a lot of the smaller schools maybe don't want to play as much, so you're forced to schedule up a little bit. I would say probably a mixture. In a lot of ways, I think scheduling in high schools, there's probably 3/4 of our schedule. We play a lot of the same schools that Paint Valley plays in a lot of sports. I think that's true with a lot of schools. You have some of those relationships, rivalries. We've always had a good start to the season with a really good White Oak program, which is a smaller school, but we've also played Vinton County, which is probably about 3 divisions bigger than us. So it's probably a mixture for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I just know in previous years, you guys, let's say you finished 3rd, 4th, whatever in the league, 5th, and then I'll popped out the VA, and here you are playing in a district championship or a regional semifinal. You know what I mean? So speak on how that SVC, how it prepares you guys as far as like when you get into tournament play.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think the biggest thing it does, guys, is it gives your team a chance to never be overwhelmed. There's obviously really, really good teams you're going to run into in the tournament. For example, I have a high level of respect for Trimble in that conference. As I said, they're probably a top 3 to 4 team in our entire district, if I'm being honest. But I think what the SVC does for you is you're never going to walk out on the field and be overwhelmed. We've seen KB Perkins and we've seen Elliott and we've seen McWhorter and we've seen that. So, there shouldn't be a pitcher that takes the mound in a Division VII tournament game that just overwhelms us, or that we're like, oh my goodness, we've never seen anything like this. Same way with the lineup. When you face a St. Trace and you face a Uniota that have more athletes and they know what to do with 1 through 9, again, you're going to face good lineups, but you're never going to face a lineup that should just overwhelm you. Does that make sense? I mean, it's not that you're not playing good teams, but you're playing something that you're very aware of and something that you've been going up against all year long.
Do you think that gives you guys a little bit of confidence, like, without you even having to say it? Let's be honest. The kids know. You know what I mean? They know. They know what they've gone up against.
It's funny you say that. I think there's a yes and no to that, if I'm being honest. I think, yes, as a competitor, deep down inside, hey, I've seen this before, I can do this. But at the same time, you guys have been around sports long enough. What I worry about sometimes is, like this particular year, we're 9 non-league games down. So, like a lot of our record, it just doesn't have a lot to show for it. Like I said, we don't run from our record. We own our record. We are what we are. But I'm telling you, we've been a pretty competitive team night in, night out. I think most of the SVC coaches would tell you the same. But so you worry a little bit about confidence in that sense. You guys know how sports can go. Sometimes I can sit there and tell a teenager that, but after a while they start looking at me and they're not getting the results. And sometimes that can weigh on their confidence. So that is something I worry about sometimes, is making sure they don't get too low on me.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you can play a great game, but if you're not putting wins up, it's at some point it could probably get to you mentally.
Yeah, big difference between competing and then winning over the course of 7 innings for sure.
Right. That's just a situation where, like Coach Easter's Day always used to say, we got to be process-based instead of results-based. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like if you guys get those 9 non-league games in, I'm saying you're winning 6 of the 9, and now your record's totally different, And it's out of your control. Out of your control.
Well, it certainly is this year. And, it's interesting what you say about the process of results, because I think that's just a baseball thing in general. You go up and, a high school kid, you bloop a couple in and you got 2 hits to show for it that night. They're all jacked up, where in reality they may not even hit the ball that hard. Where another night they go up against an elite pitcher and hit 2 line drives right at someone. Well, the baseball person might evaluate those as better at bats, but again, the results, you'd certainly take the batting average on the 2 bloops that found some green.
Exactly.
No doubt about it.
Yep, no doubt. Well, Coach, always good to talk to you. Obviously, anytime we can talk to you about, Paint Valley baseball or sports in general, it's always a good conversation. Hopefully you guys can get some games in here the next week and a half, and head over to the short drive over to Trimble and take care of business.
Well, hey guys, in all seriousness, as someone who's been in spring sports now for 30 years, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. I've been involved in a lot of media, and I know that it's a lot easier to pay the bills sometimes in the fall and winter with some of those higher profile sports. So as a longtime baseball coach, I can't thank you enough for your willingness just to kind of step out and be a little bit of a pioneer in terms of, hey, let's cover a little bit more spring sports. Let's cover some baseball. Let's cover some softball. Let's cover some track. And I really do appreciate that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. I know Coach. He's back.
If I didn't, I was going to say, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have come back. So I'm enjoying it as well.
And obviously, you've done your share of not only coaching kids over these last 30 years, but your work in the media has been, has been outstanding. Or everything that you've done, and it made me feel a little bit more comfortable saying, well, you know what, Shane does this stuff. I can come close to that, I think. So appreciate all you do for so many people, Coach, and good luck next week.
Good luck, Shane.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
It's always fun to talk to him.
You
know what I mean? And the thing with him is, and he's been this way his whole life. That's why he's such a good point guard. I don't know if I could do what he does.
I can answer that right now.
I don't know if I could.
I can't do it.
No. And he goes year after year after year at Paint Valley, and he continues to build that program, and he continues to work with that community, and he continues to do so many good things for them. And like he said, sometimes and he's had really good seasons and really good tournament runs. But when this record here says 3-11, man, that'd be hard to do.
Yeah, it's tough.
But Shane's above that and
does it the right way.
Absolutely. So. We'll take a quick break and see if we can get maybe a coach on the line, and if not, we'll wrap it up when we come back. back to the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches call-in show. We're going to wrap things up. We don't have anyone else on the line. Did want to pass along a few softball scores that we got in tonight, softball tournament finals, and I think that this will prove kind of how dominant our softball league is if you listen to some of these scores, and not just the scores, but the amount of runs that the other teams scored. You start off with the SVC champion Piketon Lady Red Streaks beat Oak Hill 11-0. Westfall defeated Chesapeake 17-0. Southeastern defeats Portsmouth 10-0. Adena 11, River Valley 1, and then softball, 2 SVC teams had to square off, unfortunately. Knocked one of them out, but Zane Trace was able to knock off Huntington 12-5. So just
like you said, it's obviously pitching prevails in a lot of those games, and it just shows that these SVC teams have some dominant kids in the circle.
That and a lot of runs scored too.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them under double figures. Every one of them scored double figures, and so I did want to mention the SVC track finals will be this Friday at Piketon. It's always interesting to see how that shakes out. A really competitive meet usually down there. So I think that's going to do it for tonight. Really good show with some of our guests on. Piketon baseball team coming in. Appreciate that. And a couple phone calls we took were really good to listen to those guys talk about their programs and their approach going into the tournament. So for Jeff Miller and Christian Spradlin, that's going to do it for us tonight. And we'll see you guys back next Tuesday.